This is a reminder that an attack on the student trustee is an attack on the entire student body that you serve, and an attack on the office of student trustee, which makes it an attack on 2.3 million community college students. Well, I'm thankful that the sound bites from those meetings reveal your true colors, Mr. Durango. It appears that you need a little help finding your mark. So next time, if you want to hurl unfair criticisms at me, let me know in advance so that I can come to the meeting prepared. Being formally silenced by our administration in recent weeks, first in an email and then in several meetings, I can't help but question the leadership that it comes from. This is not a clown college or a fascist state, and I will never allow anyone to take away my First Amendment rights, nor will I sit quietly by while this hallowed institution is being put in a precarious situation that threatens our future. We need to focus on the larger picture. According to a presentation given at a state educational conference recently, we have given 1,600 Promise Pathways scholarships at $1,500 each. If that claim is accurate, Promise Pathways has cost us $2.4 million in scholarships alone. Oddly, that is almost exactly enough to save each of the programs being slated for discontinuance. Why haven't you presented a detailed cost per pupil for Promise Pathways yet? Why has the majority of the data consisted of glittering generalities? When most anyone at LBCC knows that Promise Pathways has been an unmitigated disaster. We don't need to be a leader on the student success agenda when it means that we are doing so at the expense of our local economy, our students, and the future of this community. If we've abandoned our responsibilities, who is supposed to train our auto mechanics? Who is supposed to build our bridges and make sure our aircrafts remain aloft? I worked in corporate PR for many years, and I'm quite good at interpreting organizational priorities and the stories institutions send to members of the public. If one carefully observes corporate behavior, the subtext becomes clear. The following comments were made on January 27, 2012 in the Long Beach Business Journal, less than 90 days before we cut 40% of our classified staff last April. Question: describe the fiscal situation at Long Beach City College. President Oakley: the fiscal situation for the college is good. We are in good shape. Our Board of Trustees has done a good job of ensuring that we maintain a healthy degree of fiscal prudence, so at least for the foreseeable future, we feel that our reserves are sufficient to continue to get us through the economic crisis that California faces. And to counter the claim that we have not made cuts up to this point, and that is why we're making program cuts today. Have you had to cut classes or reduce enrollment? We've had to cut enrollment the last 3 semesters at least. These are directly related to the state budget and its impact on our community college system. We are funded based on enrollment, so with each cut, there is a cut in our enrollment base, so we have to reduce enrollment in line with the revenue cuts. We've probably, over the last 2 years, cut enrollment back to where we were in the year 2000. Later in the article, there's an even more troubling comment. When the Economic Development Department of the City of Long Beach was hit hard because of the budget reductions, we were able to step in and work with the local Workforce Investment Board to pick up some of that slack. I think all of the major institutions in the greater Long Beach area work very well together, and that has been a great benefit to the community through what we now call the Great Recession. It has kept us all moving forward with a focus on students and citizens of the greater Long Beach area. What on earth are we doing bailing out the city of Long Beach and then in 3 months cutting over $5 million from our budget? The real story is that LBCC is too close to the city and too close to business interests. 2 days after our program discontinuance vote, there was a statewide trustee conference in Sacramento. Most schools could hardly afford to send the majority of their leaders to even one portion of the conference, let alone for the entire 6 days. Yet, in the aftermath of our vote, we still found enough funds to send 3 of our trustees, President Oakley, myself, and President Oakley's spokesperson to the conference. I'm all for leaders continuing to educate themselves and making time and money available for professional development, but despite attending the vast majority of workshops, I only saw our leadership at cocktail mixers and meals. I asked around, and several other attendees said the same thing. The tragedy is that we badly need professional development. The budget workshops and Brown Act refreshers could have supplemented our board in areas where we're deficient. Where were you during the conference? In fairness, I did see Trustee Kellogg walking around town when I arrived from the airport, and twice saw Trustee Urango lounging with people in the hotel bar. And there was a pretty enlightening presentation on behalf of Trustee Kellogg and President Oakley, and I'll be glad to share the video with you, anyone who missed it.
YouTube.
I'm not sure how many of you caught the article in the Long Beach Report about the $138,000 the board was set to approve tonight, but just removed from the agenda, for cosmetics shows in Dubai and Bologna, Italy.
Ooh.
Whether it is federal grant money or not, we are not a chamber of commerce. Our students academically lag other schools, and our administration is bloated because we have so many programs that detract from what a college is supposed to be doing. They deviate entirely from our mission statement. Don't tell me that you are trying to create jobs or stimulate the economy, because that program has only created 51 jobs at a time while we are eliminating vocational programs that create exponentially more jobs right here in Long Beach. Would anyone like to hear the real job statistics for some of the programs? This is from the state of California. This is for auto mechanics. In Los Angeles County, there are 16,810 auto mechanics. And by the year 2020, it is expected to be 18,920. That's job growth of 12.6%.
Yeah.
The hourly mean is $19.28 an hour.
All right.
Welding, Los Angeles County. Right now, we have 5,800 jobs in welding, and it is projected to be 6,500 in 2020. And the hourly mean is $18.35, and it's expected to grow at 12%. 12.1%. Carpenters. We have, in the state of California, 94,600 carpenters, and it is expected to grow at 16.7% in the next 8 years. And the average annual job openings is 3,590. And the hourly mean is $27.38.
Wow. All right.
Please resist the urge to say that this was a transparent process when our own policy specifically excludes the student voice and ignores state data. I shouldn't have to remind any of you that you're here to serve students, that this institution belongs to this community. We pay each of your salaries, and we are unhappy with this leadership. When are we going to honor our mission and get back to educating students? This is a glorified real estate company, a quasi-private business, and our priorities are deeply flawed. I'd like to ask each of you to do some soul searching when you get home tonight. On behalf of the students, I would like to ask you to ask yourself whether you are fit to remain in your position. I'm not going to single out anyone, but you know who you are. Do your students and your communities a favor and give us your resignation.
Yeah!
administration issues if we continue on this path, and for good reason. One of our best possibilities of being able to overcome those issues is to start now with a restructuring of our administration, not our trades, not our programs. By the way, this represents my personal and professional opinion as a career business consultant, not an officially sanctioned position of any body on campus or anywhere else. The change LBCC needs in order to survive starts with you. Are you going to do the honorable thing? Are you going to place the interests of students above your own self-interest? Are you going to serve your constituents and your community at this critical moment? One way or another, the students of LBCC and students from across the state will ensure that this institution will be preserved along with each and every single one of our programs for future generations of students in the city of Long Beach.
That's a mouthful. As I had mentioned before, Jason, I had told you before, this is your time. It's a student trustee report. You gave your report, and I will accept that. And I will honor that for what it is. And we're going to move on with the agenda. Public comments on agenda items. We have none. Correct? We have no speaker cards on agenda items. We move on to the consent agenda. We have pulled item 12.4, so we will go ahead and take a vote on the remaining agenda items that are there, and then we'll come back on 12.4. Can I hear a motion, please? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. We'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. We move now at item 12.4. I think Doug, you had some comments you want to make on this item? Yeah.
This item is 12.4 is entitled Purchase Order Approvals and Ratifications. And there are two items from the Restricted General Fund identified as purchase orders number 70691 and 70692. I pulled this because I got a couple of telephone calls from people who said that they didn't understand what these purchase orders were for. They are identified as for an international convention and exhibit in Dubai for $53,720, and a Cosmo-proof worldwide Bologna event for $84,366. And so I wanted to better understand this and what these monies were going for. So I can't do this if people are shouting. Give me the courtesy to just ask the questions and talk.
There's been a question regarding this item. We pulled it. We're discussing it. Please pay attention. Thank you.
So, first of all, can I ask the Executive Vice President about what these two conferences are?
Yeah, these two conferences are actually trade shows that are part of the Center for International Trade Development's export development activities, program activities. They're funded by the Small Business Administration. Those funds go to the California Chancellor's Office for the Economic Workforce Development Program. There's 7 CIPDs in the state of California. They all have submitted proposals for various trade shows to do matchmaking for export companies in the region. So the one that we're doing right now is the one in Bologna. There's one planned in Dubai in the future. future, but that hasn't been set yet.
And the one in Bologna, is there a precedent for this?
This is called a STEP grant. The STEP grant is actually a State Trade and Export Promotion Grant Program. It was authorized by the Small Business Jobs Act of 2010. It's a 3-year period. All 50 states in the country have access to funds to be able to propose to do these kinds of trade shows. We did one last year. There was a STEP grant that came through the Chancellor's office. We took 12 companies to Bologna last year. This year, we're taking 23.
And why are we taking almost twice as many this year?
Because there is a thriving sector in the LA area having to do with beauty products. We have an obligation to identify sector activity in the LA area and put those companies together and provide trade missions for them as part of the program activities for the Centers for International Trade Development.
As a result of this conference last year in Bologna, this trade show in Bologna, was there any economic benefit that was realized?
Yes, there's a Department of Commerce formula that is used based on a number of things. It has to do with export sales. It has to do with companies being able to enter new markets in different countries, and in capital infusion. With last year's 12 companies that went to Bologna, we generated $13 million in export sales. We helped 9 companies enter 27 different district markets and countries, created 54 jobs from that trade activity for those 12 companies, and we facilitated $4.2 million in capital infusion.
Why is it that we're also considering going to, I know we're going back to Bologna for this trade conference, but why are we also considering going to Dubai as well?
Well, Dubai is also an area, California Pavilion, the state of California has a pavilion in these countries to showcase California companies for international trade. And the Department of Commerce identifies these areas and these places and then reaches out through the different sectors in the state of California. In this case, it's the Chancellor's Office, the CITDs. This is also a partnership with the Los Angeles Export Group, which includes the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce, the Department of Commerce, SBA. The Professional Beauty Association. The CITDs in the state, they specialize in the different areas. And Dubai is going to have a California pavilion this year.
Now, do we expect, because we're taking virtually twice as many companies to on these trips this year, to generate more jobs and more economic growth?
The whole point of this is to be able to identify outcomes, measurable outcomes from the trade missions. In the case last year, we had capital infusion, we had export sales, we had jobs created. We'll be doing the same thing with the 23 companies this year. There's a lot of preparation that goes into this before the companies go there. There's research that's done for the various companies. There's trade matchmaking that's arranged through the CITD as well as the Department of Commerce in the state of California. And there's follow-up activity after these companies have gone and showcased their products and met with counterparts in other countries and then come back and then hopefully do trade transactions.
And where does the money come from to pay for these trips?
It comes from the Small Business Administration. The money is passed to the California Chancellor's Office, Community College Chancellor's Office. There's an Economic Workforce Development Program, which is the third primary mission of the California Community Colleges. It's workforce development, economic development, and the international trade is one of the 10 initiatives through the EWD program in the Chancellor's Office.
Is any of the money that goes to pay for these trade conferences come from our general fund, for which we put on classes and pay teachers and staff?
None whatsoever. This money comes from the SBA and the people, the companies that are paying for the opportunity to go to the trade pavilion for the state of California. There's 2 staff people that we have that are attending. One is our CITD program manager. The other one is the international trade specialist. They will facilitate the group of 23 with the companies that they arranged appointment with overseas. Their costs are covered by the participants in the SBA funds.
When you say the participants, do the 23 companies pay money to attend these conferences?
Yes, they do. They have to pay the full cost of going over there, as well as some expenses when they get there. Most of the costs that come from the SBA, Chancellor's Office matched some of these funds as well. They had to put a match to it, but most of the costs that come from the SBA are going to the pavilion costs. There's a build out for the booth. There's a whole series of people that work for the California Pavilion that are designated to set up appointments and identify trade matchmaking companies, and so those costs go to cover that.
And are there any, other than the two individuals you've identified as coming from Long Beach City College, are there any other Long Beach City College employees or personnel going on this trip?
No.
So there are no trustees?
No trustees are going on this trip.
No administrators?
No trustees have been asked to go on this trip.
And you said that this was part of the Long Beach City College mission, or community college mission. What do you base that on?
Well, I think it's best maybe if I just give you some language. Last year, the Economic Workforce Development Program has been authorized in statutory code since 1996. The third primary mission for economic workforce development was identified then. It was reauthorized last year in Senate Bill 1402, and under the mission statement, there are 6 items talking about principles that apply. 3 of those areas apply to supporting business development and employers. And then it talks about the program is designed to do 2 of the following. One of them is to advance economic growth, global competitiveness through education, training, and services contributing to workforce improvement. The second is advancing California's economic jobs recovery and sustainable economic growth through labor market aligned education, workforce training, sector strategies focusing on workforce development, technology deployment, and business development.
We do quite a bit in this economic and workforce development area here at Long Beach City College, don't we?
We do. We've had a very active program the last few years.
And these include going after programs like the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small businesses.
We've developed a platform of business support programs through our Los Angeles area network Small Business Development Center. It's the 7th largest funded network of SBDC's lead center in the country. It's the largest in California. It covers a 3-county area: Los Angeles, Ventura, Santa Barbara. We have the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, which has graduated 150 participants. 25% of those people come from the city of Long Beach. 50% of them have created new jobs. 75% of them have increased their sales. This is part of international trade, is part of business development. It's the same thing. It's just a focus on international trade and export activity.
This is all part of the statutory and regulatory missions of community colleges in California.
It is. And part of why we've done this, where we have business support, is because we have education for our students. We train the workforce, and this is designed to make sure that we are able to support businesses so they are competitive, they remain competitive, they can grow, and they can create jobs, and not only that, create the right kinds of jobs so our students in the workforce have access to jobs.
Yeah.
I have no further questions.
Trustee Troy, you had some questions during this item as well?
Yeah, I was just wondering, are you aware that more than 25% of the businesses going on the trip are located in the San Francisco Bay Area?
We have businesses come all over the state of California. Most of them are in Southern California, but the CITDs,
What they got?
the CITDs focus on industry sectors and don't compete in those industry sectors. So some of the industry sectors up north have businesses from Southern California join their STEP program.
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of say that in connection to what we mean, Trustee Otto kind of asked the question already that I was going to ask about these expenditures being from the restricted fund. I mean, if we voted this down, would it provide a single dime for our general fund to keep classes open? Because, I mean, I'll be honest, I've listened to the arguments in favor of these things. I'm not convinced. I mean, if there were a way that I could see to it this money went to keeping our classes open, I would definitely put it down. But the fact is, there's not. It's frustrating to me, some of the ways, the constraints that we operate under. And while I'm on the topic, I would just like to say in regard to something else that our student trustee said about our accreditation, where it's going to hurt us. Something else, especially that's really frustrated me, where we spend money instead of in the classroom, is something that you can hate us for it, but the bottom line is the accreditation commission flat out gave us instructions that we do not spend enough money on this compiling data and tracking different cohorts of students. I mean, believe me, there is nobody in this room, and I know there's a lot of angry people back here, there's nobody in this room who's more angry than me. I in my job, and that pays the bills, which is not this one, needless to say. I was displaced from my job 2 years ago as a teacher. I expect to be displaced again because of this nationwide war on teachers, this viewpoint that it is the teacher's fault that less than 100% of students are successful, putting this illusion that it's possible for 100% of people, including students who don't do anything, to be successful, that student success needs to be put ahead of student access. It's very, very frustrating to me, but if there was something I could do about it, I really wish I could. But bottom line is, just like...
Okay, Trustee Board, we're on a topic of,
okay.
I have 12.4.
The point is, this is one of the things that I personally am frustrated about. I wish there was something I could do about it, but bottom line is, voting this down is not going to provide any more money for our classes, and I just, so.
Trustee Keller.
Most of the comments I must say, thank you, Bill Pearl, and LB Report for at least posting. And the reason I say that is because, in all fairness, this was for us as a college, this was the infamous softball being tossed to us. We do not get coverage in the local newspaper, for the most part, on this area. There's a big sign behind us, if you look closely at it, promotes what it says: workforce development by delivering high-quality education programs for service to our diverse community. So when this came out and gave us a little opportunity to sit there, it gave us the opportunity to sit there and explain what this program is. There's a fundamental question about why are we involved in it to begin with, but as you've heard some reasons why. We are delivering to help local businesses to expand, grow businesses, etc. That's one of our missions. And so the opportunity to explain a little bit more is actually refreshing. So I appreciate the fact that the issue came up. I can't be upset with the program that's been recognized for doing all the things during very difficult economic times and being successful and being honored for being successful. All these programs you've heard that were mentioned previously, the Goldman Sachs programs, others, are all part of this, and other community colleges in California don't have the ability to deliver like we are able to do so in this one area, which is not your traditional classroom, but nonetheless it is teaching, it is helping, and so it was nice to have the opportunity to talk about the overall workforce development and what we do to serve the community, help the community, especially during difficult times. So it was really a good opportunity. The biggest point I wanted to pull away from it, though, and it has been brought up, but I'm going to reiterate it one more time, is the fact that trustees were never going to be attending this, had no reason to attend it. And so I read some where people had talked about possibly, we let the people that know what they're doing go to these events, and they are, and they do a tremendous job. So I appreciate the opportunity. We're actually able to present this because it's something that there's nothing to hide. It's very positive, and it's been moving forward in a positive way for the community, and I applaud the people, and I appreciate the fact that somebody asked the question, because we've been doing this for a long time, and somebody finally looked at it and brought it up, and it gave us the opportunity to explain it in more detail, and hopefully it did. People in the program should be commended. The college should be proud of what's going on as we reach out and try to help the local community, the business side, and it's an area that we are involved with. Final point is, there was a question about what is this to do to the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is an advocacy group. They're there, it's a membership, things of that nature. We are doing this to help businesses in the local community, as well as mentioned, throughout the state of California, because of the quality of the program we offer here at Long Beach City College. So it was a good opportunity to hopefully say something positive, and I believe we did. Thank you.
Any other comments? Can have a motion, please?
Talk about beauty supplies again.
Yeah, I would move approval of item 12.4 to purchase order approvals and ratifications in its entirety, which would include these monies for these two international conventions in Bologna and
Yeah, motion and second. Any more discussion?
I'd like to make a comment if I can. You know, I find it hard to understand that people would say, and I've heard this in the community over the last couple of days, that Long Beach City College should not be doing this kind of work. That economic and workforce development is not something that we should be involved with, that should be left to the chambers of commerce or business associations. Well, the way that this works is that the legislature says, this is what your mission is, and these are the things that you are expected to do. And as a result of that, we try and devote resources to what our mission is, and that includes economic and workforce development. In fact, we've established ourselves as one of the premier economic and workforce development programs, not only in the state of California, but really nationally. And historically, we've been very proud of that. When Goldman Sachs, which totally funds at no cost to anyone, this 10,000 small business program, we were the second program selected in the United States. Most recently, the Kauffman Foundation came up with an innovation fund, which they've been trying to do through universities and four-year colleges for years and years, unsuccessfully, and they finally said, you know what? Economic and workforce development, entrepreneurship, is best taught in community colleges, and that's where we're going to fund it. And so Long Beach was picked up as one of 3 community colleges in the United States to participate in $1 billion fund to train businesses and help businesses grow through an entrepreneurship program. And it's part of what we're expected to do. It's part of what we do well. And what I don't understand is the idea that we shouldn't do it because some people think that we should have a different mission. If we need to change the mission, then go to the legislature. Don't come to the board and say, don't do that, do something else. And as Mark said, the monies for these programs don't cost a red cent to the instructional programs that we do. It's part of what we do, and that's why I made the motion and support it.
Cheers.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none, take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to take this opportunity here to just tell the crowd, please be respectful, collegial. We've had some very contentious meetings the last couple of months, and you've been great. Today is another story. So please, I'm asking you to be respectful. I don't want to have this meeting disrupted and discontinued because we have a lot of agenda items we're going to look at. There's a lot of discussion that needs to take place. And I know there's a lot of it that you want to hear, and you also have your speaker cards here and you want to speak, and we're going to allow you to do that. However, we can't continue like this where we have disruptions continually. So I ask you to please be respectful as I will respect you. Thank you.
Don't respect it. It's like you're doing what we're doing. You did. You didn't act like this. You didn't do it good.
Testimony.
Freedom of speech.
We got some testimony up here.
For those of you who did remain quiet, thank you very much. There's always one in the crowd. Okay, end of the consent calendar. We are now in item 8.1, new material fees for school of kinesiology and athletics. This is an action item for our motion. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Item 8.1. Okay, this is Dr. Juarez. Any discussion on this? None? Okay. No discussions. We'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.1, accreditation self-study update and timeline. This is an informative item, and I think that would be, this is going to be Superintendent Hill.
I'll take it.
Okay, you'll be taking it.
Okay, thank you, Board President Uranga. As Trustee Troia mentioned a little while ago, we are coming up on another accreditation cycle. Our self-study is coming up, and so I have asked Dr. Eva Bag, our accreditation liaison officer, to walk us through a timeline so that the board can become aware of what our timeline is, what work that we are doing currently to prepare for the accreditation self-study. Obviously, we are working diligently with the Academic Senate and all those that are involved in the initial planning, but it's coming around the corner. And since this item has come up, I do want to just briefly respond to a concern that Trustee Troia raised regarding our accreditation. And I would be happy to provide Trustee all the information necessary about the accreditation standards. But one of the most important standards that has been raised of late, and in particular, since our student trustee is familiar with the Bay Area, City College of San Francisco, several institutions have been placed either on probation or, in the case of our colleagues at City College of San Francisco, on show cause, which is the last step toward losing accreditation. Primary reason is because of the lack of involvement on the board in terms of setting budget priorities and the lack of leadership with regards to the cuts that needed to be made in City College of San Francisco. And although many are concerned and are arguing with regard to the choices that are having to be made, and I certainly empathize with the students and staff at City College of San Francisco who are dealing with some very difficult issues. It's an unfortunate result of waiting to the very end and dealing with those decisions that has led to their near loss of accreditation, and hopefully they do not lose accreditation, but they are as close as any college has ever been in California to losing it. I realize that this accreditation is a very confusing process to the general public, but it is hopefully gives us this presentation will give us a little bit of understanding of the process that the college is going to go through in order to prepare the self-study that is necessary to provide to the accrediting organization. And we fully expect to receive full accreditation again going forward after this process. So if I can ask Dr. Bag to come on up and provide us with a brief presentation of the timeline.
Board President
Obama, the trustees, and members of the executive team. So tonight, as President Oakley has mentioned, I'm going to give you an update on the process of our institutional self-evaluation. I also want to respond to the request for updates from the board following from the last update that I gave you in October. So here's an overview of tonight's presentation. You'll recall in October we submitted with one half of the California Community Colleges a report, a special report to the Accrediting Commission that was essentially a status update on our student outcomes assessment. So I want to follow up on that briefly. Most of the presentation will talk about our institutional self-evaluation, what we've done so far, and what we plan to do over the next year and a half. And finally, I want to highlight the roles and responsibilities of the board for the process of accreditation.
Find out. Dee, have a seat.
Can we please have some respect out there? It's a minute. Continue, please.
So first off, following up on our assessment report that was submitted to ACCJC in October, I just wanted to let everyone know that we've heard nothing back from ACCJC, and what we've heard from the commission, and I spoke directly to some commissioners about this, we really shouldn't expect anything until probably after the June meeting of the commission. Their thinking is they want to receive the reports from all of the colleges before they kind of collectively see where we're at, and then they'll respond. So no news is good news, but we shouldn't expect anything until after the June meeting. So what they're waiting for are the other colleges, the other half to submit, and that's happening this week. So they'll start collecting those and reviewing that information. Meanwhile, at Long Beach City College, we continue work on our SLO assessment at the different levels. The Assessment of Student Learning Outcomes Committee is working largely at the level of the institution, as with our general education outcomes. There are a number of those where there's simultaneous projects that are ongoing. And you will recall the other levels, course level and program level assessments. And I just wanted to highlight for you some data that we've collected that's a follow-up to what you saw in October and what we submitted to the commission in terms of percentages. So what I've highlighted, you've got the October data in the report, and then at the end of January, we did another snapshot. So we're really trying to highlight for you some incremental improvements that we've seen in the last 4 months. So for the course level, each of these, what I've got in the gray boxes are basically the phases of the SLO assessment process that the commission asks us to document and report the data on. So for the course level, the actual SLOs defined, you can see we've increased, we're nearly 100%. And we've got SLO officers, faculty officers, and the deans all working on closing this, getting these up to 100%. Method of assessment, that's really documenting. The faculty are very clear about how they're going to collect their assessment data. That's been documented nearly at 100%. We continue to work at the last 2 phases of actually collecting the data. So you can see in October what we reported to the commission. We had 29% of the course SLO assessments for which we had results documented. And then the final piece, really the most critical piece for accreditation, is faculty taking that data and actually doing things to make improvements, actions taken. So in October, we were at 24% of all the SLOs at the course level, and we've risen 6 percentage points at the end of January. So that's the course level.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Sure.
What does it take to document the results of these course SLOs?
Well, you know, there's different aspects of it. I mean, individual faculty members will be collecting data from their individual class sections. But what we're documenting in the tool that we've invested in to support this effort, TrackDat, is the faculty must come together and discuss the assessment results, document the dialogue, and importantly, identify any gaps that the faculty identify between the results and the standards that they've set for each of the SLOs. So it requires, it's a collaborative effort of pulling together lots of data. We've got, you can see, over 1,300 courses, multiple sections within that, and multiple SLOs within those. So that's all being pulled together. Conversation happens, decisions happen by the faculty about what they're going to do to respond.
Are the conversations happening? Is the faculty meeting to do this? Because we're about a third of what the SLOs have been defined at almost 100%. The method has been identified at almost 100%, but the results are at 36%. Well, why is there such a discrepancy? Is it a lack of will? Is it a lack of reading? Is it a lack of understanding?
I think that we're really getting there in terms of understanding what needs to be done. In the last report, we identified a number of strategies to help. For example, we have a lot of adjunct instructors who have needed additional training to understand how Long Beach City College has set up their process and how we're documenting the information. So that's one of the things that happened at the beginning of the fall semester, and another one of those sessions is being planned. That's part of it. The other thing, and I know it gets kind of complicated to explain, but we have embedded these course and program level SLO assessments into ongoing established processes at the college. And this is something that is encouraged by the commission, that we folded into something that we're already doing. And for courses, the review of the vast number of courses that we have is essentially a 6-year cycle. So that's part of what's happening here. Programs, on the other hand, they're undergoing part of our established program review process, a 3-year cycle. And the way that it goes is that all the courses are to be assessed within a program, all of those courses that support them within the cycle. And I've talked to commissioners about this strategy, and they recognize that this is an approach that is actually one that can be sustainable, because we're building it into a process that the college has established for a long time and is actually working through. It's just this work of SLO assessment is it's been another level of learning, but I really do think that we're getting there. And these numbers continue to grow daily. I mean, there's additional data. There was a big push through the Office of Academic Affairs to be collecting more data. But again, that still requires the process of collaboration and department level conversation to get it to the level that accreditation is looking for.
Do you have concerns about the rate at which this is being done, or do you think that because it's been embedded in the process that we're moving forward at the rate that we should be as we come into the accreditation cycle?
Well, honestly, I do have some concern only in that we just have to make sure that we follow the assessment plans that faculty have documented, and that we continue to assess those courses that have been set up in the assessment plan. If we fulfill that commitment, then I feel quite confident that we've established a good process for doing this. And I know that our faculty leadership is working really hard to simultaneously make it meaningful, which means that those actions taken will be significant actions that are informed by, important, meaningful conversations where they've really scrutinized these standards that are set for each of the SLOs and have been very reflective about how to improve. And that's the whole purpose of this endeavor, really. It's not just checking off a box and completing these percentages, but having it lead to notable, documentable improvements in student learning. And I do feel that our faculty is committed to doing that.
Thank you.
Excuse me, how soon do you expect our visitation?
Our next visit will be October 2014. And I will outline in 2014. And I'll provide a timeline in a moment in the presentation. Real briefly.
I'm sorry.
Trustee Keller.
Just because I started to talk about it, so, which makes me feel somewhat more comfortable about how you view this whole scenario with the student learning outcome assessments. Because, this is a statement more than a question, but because of the fact that our last accreditation process, and this was at the forefront, and this was one of the issues that put us to a warning status, and then we had to do a tremendous amount of effort to start to catch up. And so my concern is that we have accreditation come back, and the accreditation commission feel there has not been enough progress done in this area. When last time they said it was an issue, and we said we were going to make it a priority. And so that's where the question was, and I don't think there's an answer, but when do you finally get to the 100%? When do you get to a number rather than in the 30 percentile? And I don't know how to compare that to other colleges if they've been similar tracks, but I'm concerned that if we have an area that we can be criticized on because of past performance and things that take to be in this area, the student learning outcomes. So with that said again, we need to know, I need to know as a governing board member and the entire board is we need to know sooner rather than later of what's taking place. We tried this last time, but we were still unsuccessful. So I think it's important these type of presentations because I'm glad you're more optimistic, guidedly optimistic, but I'm still very concerned about it. I don't have all the details, but it puts a tremendous burden on our faculty. I just look at these numbers and I don't see, that may not be fair or not, but I just don't see the level of progress that I think we will need for this accreditation to move forward and where that's close. I may be wrong, I hope I'm wrong, but it just concerns me because of the prior issues with this subject. I'll leave it at that.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, if we were to take basically our program review cycle and we're into the last third of the cohorts of the departments that are undergoing program review, one would hope that we would be at 60%, roughly 66%, where you see the activity cycle. So that is, we need to close in on that gap quickly. And I know that the faculty is very aware. I know our SLO coordinator and the ASLO subcommittee is working hard to address that. So I appreciate your concern. Part of your responsibility of the process. So just asking the question continually is very helpful. Okay, so moving forward with regard to where we are now, looking ahead, actually, we're in it right now, our institutional self-evaluation. Just want to let you know what's happened so far. We actually started in the fall, really technically, with the self-evaluation. So there was a training offered in October by ACCJC. This is typical for colleges who are preparing for their self-evaluation. They provide a workshop for the cohort colleges who have their visits scheduled for fall 2014. So there were a number of us who attended. All of the vice presidents attended, as well as our accreditation faculty co-chair, Jeff Wheeler, professor of English. Also, our SLO coordinator, Clark Zunick, professor of reading, attended that, and myself. In addition, in October, there was a special workshop that we drove to Ventura. There were a number of us, myself, Senate President Dr. Juarez attended, and also Peter Knapp, our program review subcommittee.